Hello guys, I want to show you a nice little Dark Magician ruling video because I don't like my old one and I think it's outdated and I learned a lot more. So let's uh let's go with some Dark Magician rules you might want to know. So let's play Raph, right? You get an awe and you summon your Dragoon. Alright. Cool. And for some reason, let's say some turns pass, right, and you just you have another Dark Magician on the field, and if they droplet your Dragoon, or if they Dark no more him, and you have this set during their turn, a nice little trick you can do is you can flip this, use your Dark Magician and your Dragoon for another Dragoon. And you might be wondering, how can you do this? Well, because when you use Ref, its name becomes Red Ice Black Dragon, and one of the materials listed here is the Dark Magician and Red Ice Black Dragon. Therefore, it's completely legal. You can do. Miro made a video about that, but in case you didn't watch it, that is a nice little trick you can do to save yourself from losing a Dragoon. I mean, you're gonna lose a Dragoon, but like you can use your Dragoon to get another Dragoon, but your Dragoon won't be able to pop. I mean, he'll only be able to pop once, but because you're using one normal material. Some people might call judge on you for that one because it's the name and it's not the actual card. People are just very stubborn. But another Dark Magician rule that I want to show you is let's say you have Eternal Souls out, and let's say you have your Dragon Knight out, and then let's say your opponent flips Skill Drain, and if your opponent flips Skill Drain, as long as your Dragon Knight was already on the field before the Skill Drain, he should be good. Eternal Souls protects him. But if Eternal Souls wasn't there before, well, he's no longer Dark Magician, he's not the Dragon Knight, and even if you flip this, his effect already been negated. But again, if you had Eternal Souls up first, and that basically means him become Dark Magician, and that makes him unaffected by that, that's fine. But if he leaves the field somehow and uses Eternal Souls to bring him back, he's not considered Dark Magician when he touches the field, because he automatically gets negated by Skill Drain. Skill Drain will automatically negate it when it touches the field before he even gets a chance to attempt to use his effect to become the Dark Magician and make him unprotected by Eternal Souls. And because they're automatically negated as soon as they're face up. So that means if you even summon him face up in the defense position, he's still face up, so he would get negated. So that's a nice little ruling right there. But you can still bring him back, so he's still a 3k beat stick. But if he was up, this was up before, then he's fine. If it wasn't, then he's kind of screwed. And if they get rid of it and you bring him back, he's also screwed. We don't talk about Magicalized too much, but if you use Magicalized, some people think you can make Dragon Knight. Dragon Knight is a dragon, not a spellcaster, which means you would have to make somehow, if you can, Master of Chaos, or whatever your spellcasters in your extra deck are, or Dragoon, or Secrets or the Dark Magicians. Here's another one. Illusion of Chaos. Yeah, everyone knows about him. Oh, yes. Normal summon Rod, if they imperm, and, let's say you have Secrets of Dark Magic in your hand, and you want to save your Rod from getting impermed, or effect failure, Secrets of Dark Magic, use these two, or Dark Magician Girl, for the Dark Magicians, and then you'll still get your search, and your imp and your Rod will be in the grave, which means if you do set up Eternal Souls, bring back the Dark Magician, you want to tribute the Dark Magician, go ahead, tribute him, and get your Rod back, but I don't really like that, but that's a nice little thing you can do to save your Rod from getting impermed and not searched. And what else? We can also show. Oh yes, Soul Servant. Here's a nice little ruler. Let's say you have a Dark Magician on your field, right? Let's say you're going up against a mirror match, and let's say they have a DMG in their graveyard. As soon as I find the DMG, which is this card, and now, yep. So, yeah. So since they have DMG in their graveyard, Soul Servant is a draw 2, because Soul Servant does not specifically state your graveyard. It just says the graveyard, or like the graveyard and face up field. Doesn't care whose it is or where, like which player it is, as long as there is a Dark Magician in one face up field or grave, you'll get to draw one. And so if they do have the Dark Magician go in their grave for some reason, right? You can do Soul Servant, stack whatever, right? Say stack Secrets, banish, you'll get a draw 2. So Soul Servant does not care whose graveyard it is or field it is. But this can also be a double-edged sword, because if it's a mirror match, it also works on there. But that's a nice little tip you might want to know in case, like, for some reason someone has a Dark Magician in the grave, because, they're running Branded Fusion to get the Dragoon out. So, that's a nice little trick. You can get a Soul Servant off that, right? So, like, they play Branded Fusion, go for a Albion, right? Or Lubellion, discard one, or just banish them. And someone's, if they discard, they just run a fusion, they send, and they put Dark Magician in the grave, and they're Albaz in the grave, right? You imperm that, then you Soul Servant, and then you can banish, because, and get the draw 1 because Dark Magician's in the grave. It's just a nice little thing. For Nadir Siren, I don't have it with me right now, but if you play it and send Dragon Knight into the grave, because he is Dark Magician still in the graveyard, Soul Servant will also work, and you could banish one, but you wouldn't be able to bring him back with Eternal Souls because he was not properly summoned, but you can use Soul Servant to put him back into the extra deck, because he does have Dark Magician in his name. So you can, Nadir Servant him and recycle him if you just want to draw one. But I thought those were nice little tips to know for the Dark Magician deck, because, my old one is outdated and I don't really like my old one. Another one is Mahad. A lot of people in my locals who are building this deck ask me why we don't play Mahad. Well, here's the reason why. He has the condition when it says, when this card is drawn, special summon it from your hand. Take keynote for when, because when means as soon as it happens, which means if it's not if he's drawn, it has to be when he's drawn. So let's say you play Upstart, you draw him, because the last thing that happened was gaining 1,000, which was your opponent, you cannot summon him. The same with drawing him in your hand. He just bricks. He's there forever. He's just sucks. Plus he's not that good of a summon anyways. And another one right here. And now I just gotta find souls. So it took me forever to find them. Is this one. I'm pretty sure Unreal made a video about it, which was awesome because it's a really cool combo. It's a nice little combo. So, if you open up with Apprentice and Souls, or you search Apprentice because you want to get rid of your opponent's board with Illusion and Chaos, because let's say, it's Tears, right? You're gonna pretend this card's in this deck because I don't want to search for it. You're gonna discard a card. So in this card, you can search it for the Dark Magician if you want, but I would just rather not. Souls is gonna do his thing. Send the Dark Magician, go to grave, out. Then you're gonna seize these two for Naruto, then attack with Naruto, then rank them up in main phase 2 to Ebon, and then break him up into Sky Thunder Zeus. And then Zeus doesn't care as long as an Xyz monster attack you can rank into this card. Doesn't matter. It doesn't need to be that Xyz monster. Yep. just an Xyz monster battle, and because Naruto met that requirement, we could just in general link up because it's a rank 6 spellcaster. Avalon could just rank up automatically, and then we can rank up with Zeus. So you have 2 detaches, right? Let's say, right, like you summon him in defense position because you're going up against T or something like that, or it's attack position, right? And they're like, oh well, that's cool. I'm just like they're going to like try to like attack or negate, right? You can detach 2, and if they try to negate, you can detach 2 again because he's not once per turn, unless you got a Rydot, under my knowledge. But that means you have 2 of these, which means if you also have an imperm set, you can also basically guarantee yourself a Zeus board wipe, and this just really helps going second as a DM combo. Because DM doesn't really have a lot going second, and that's just really cool. The fact that you can do that, we have our own way to get into Zeus. It's not very practical, but we have our own way into Zeus. I just really like that, and I just like Zeus in general. He's probably my favorite Xyz monster. And let's see what other things we can do. We can do like rivalry. Let's say rivalry, right? You have Dragoon, Dragon Knight, Dark Magician, because most likely you're always going to summon this little bastard out with no effect. And Eternal Souls, if I can find this damn card. Eternal Souls, right? Because that's how you're pretty much going to summon him. You have to make a decision. If you flip Rivalry, you have to get rid of the Spellcasters or Dragon Knight. I'm probably going to get rid of Dragon Knight, because if we have Dragoon, why would we want to get rid of Dragoon? Like, what? Because so Rivalry says a type, and Dragon Knight is a dragon, which is dumb. He's a Dark Magician, though. And the other 2 are Spellcasters, but if you just had a choice between these 2, I'd probably go with the Dragon Knight, because he protects your spell, Eternal Souls, and Eternal Souls can bring him back in just 3k. But if you have like something like Secret Village, you really don't need Dragon Knight. You're pretty much protected from Harsh Feathers, MST. The only thing you gotta worry about like traps, but you got Dragoon for that, and sometimes you might have to, you gotta do what you gotta do to protect Eternal Souls if you have like a full board. But if you don't have a full board, then you're good, because he can't be destroyed by card effects. So it's just really like what you want in that situation. And another rulings. I still can't believe I have to bring this one up, but Super Poly, no matter what, does not get through Eternal Souls, because to use monsters as fusion materials, you have to affect them. And because you have to affect them, unaffected monsters can't be affected. And they legally, if they play Super Poly, they legally have to fuse with their monsters, or else you have to get the judge to rewrite game state, or you can do it yourself. But they literally cannot activate Super Poly if they have nothing else to do. If you only have your Dark Magicians, unless they want to fuse with their monsters. But it's just something that people still don't understand till this day. Something they'll try to say it's a mechanic, so make sure you know that. And if they know what they're doing, or they know how the game works, they will not argue with you. If you need to call the judge, which would be a better option, call it. Because I had 2 people at locals ganging up on me saying, no, you can use unaffected monsters with Super Poly. Yeah. I'm like, no, you can't. They're like, yes, you can. I'm like, Judge, help me. But, it's whatever. And what other ruling I want to talk about? Oh, I wanted to talk about this ruling. Let's say your opponent has an imperm set. And let's say they have it set in the same column as Eternal Souls. First thing is first, they can not negate Dark Magician, because one, he has no effect, so something that can't be negated, plus Eternal Souls means it's unaffected. They can target Dragon Knight, and they could try to negate him, but if they cannot negate him, this will still go through. It just won't negate this column, and he just be unaffected by that target, because it'll try to negate him, but Eternal Souls will say no. Someone said, oh yeah, no, I'm just negating Eternal Souls by targeting Dragon Knight. There's a semicolon, and you can't do that. And another ruling with this might be useful, and is, let's say they, because this one actually happened recently, they flip Skill Drain, right? And if they have Skill Drain, and you have like something like this, they can't like target. They can still target. Actually, no, they can't because they can't even activate this in the first place. I was gonna say they can still target because you can target monsters, but you can't activate this because you can't negate something that's already been negated. And someone tried doing that. I was like, you can't do that, and we had to call a judge. And it's like, you can't negate something that's already been negated. You can't negate something that can't be negated. You can't negate something that has no effect, so they can't be negated. And so, like, that's a nice little ruling to watch out for. People might try to say, you know, it's just people who don't read their cards or know the rulings. That's why we make these videos, though, just in case you also do this as well. If you don't believe me, try the Master Duels. I'm sure you will find it very fun to misplay. And something I wanted to talk about, actually it's not a ruling, but it's just something that I do want to talk about, is a nice little new card that we can get out with it's a rank 3, and I like it because it's like a Dragoon, but has more effects, and is awesome. So, I like it because, we can link these 3 off for Blackluster Soldier, and you got a reprint, so that's why I got him. And because he was made with a level 7 or higher monster as material, and your opponent can't target this card with card effects, and it also cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. So, if they do get rid of Eternal Souls, he does go because it only protects him by your opponent's card effects. So he can't be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. It's not like Dragoon where he can't be destroyed by card effects. But he is like Dragoon because he can't be targeted and can't be destroyed by your opponents. But you can still target him, so you can still equip like axe stuff to him. But if he destroys something during which he's 3,000, so most likely you can boost him up to 4,500, which will basically be over everything, and or he can make a second attack so he can go for game, or he can non-target banish a card on the field, which is pretty nice that it's non-target, which means you can get rid of those things that can't be targeted and can't be destroyed by battle that have like 4,000 damage. And it's nice because it's a pretty big boy. But I just wish he also couldn't be destroyed by our own effects because Eternal Souls, if they pop it, we're not gonna have a good time. Another cool thing I wanted to show that people might not know they can do is let me find Dragoon. If they droplet your Dragoon, right? You can drop this on top, boost him up to 3,500 because you're boosting him from 1,500 with 2,000. So 2,000 plus 1,500 is 3,500, which is pretty neat. So if they try to swing over with a 3,000 monster, they're gonna lose 500, and you save yourself a Dragoon. His effects are still negated, but you do save your Dragoon for a next turn, and you could possibly close game. It's a nice little thing you can do with your cards that I thought was nice. And you could technically use Dragonite. Actually, no, not technically. You can use Dragonite, right? If you somehow hard draw these 2 cards, you can use Dragonite Dragoon and Red Eye Black Dragon for Red Eye Dark Dragoon, but you only get 1 pop because you only use 1 elemental monster. And that's because this card is Dark Magician on the field and in the graveyard. So technically, you could also use him, I believe, for Magical Eyes Fusion because you're just banishing the materials. You don't have to banish like specifically a spellcaster. You just have to make a spellcaster, which is pretty nice. Let me just double check. Fuse summon 1 spellcaster monster from the fusion from your extra deck by banishing fusion materials listed on it from the field or in the grave. Yep. So you can even use Magical Eyes Fusion to fuse if you have these 2 cards in the graveyard for Dragoon, but you only get 1 pop because he's an effect. And technically, you can, because he's a dragon, seeks his dark magic with Dark Magician, like the Renetto Dark Magician, and use him because he's a dragon for Dragoon. So you can make Dragoon by using our other materials, which wouldn't be a good idea, but it is like, you know, something you need to know, like in case like they add like, you know, they absolutely like they destroy Eternal Souls with a monster card. You flip this and you summon Dragoon with the Red Ice Black Dragon in your hand. Dragonite, because Eternal Soul starts a new chain, therefore you can add to that chain. So I thought it was pretty neat that you can do stuff like that with, you know, your stuff. But you know, that's pretty much it for, you know, the rulings. There's not much else. It's not much else that you need to know. Besides some like standard stuff, probably like, you know, how Ash works, and like some people get confused on like, oh, how Verte works. Like Verte, you know, you're not like, you're using the effect, and because you have to play the card to be locked, you're not locked, but you're locked on the Verte's effect afterwards. So that's for today's video. Oh, Verte's banned, by the way, and I'll see you guys later, and peace.